Hi, Debbie Lawrence here from Newport Live. I'm going to do another floor lying routine. We'll do a little prep first and then we'll go through some leg exercises, so for the muscles at the side of the legs and the hips. So, and this is for those of you that can comfortably get up and down from the floor. If that transition isn't available to you, I will suggest that you stay with the seated version, so the chair-seated version, or you maybe stay with the standing exercises, just initially, until this transition feels comfy. Okay, so let's get on with it, we won't wait any longer. So we're going to come down to lying on the floor and just curl down so that you're resting your head and it's in a semi-supine position. You might want to start with the feet together and then just turn the feet out so that they come parallel and in line with the hips here. And then just initially keep the feet nice and light on the floor, but we just start with that pelvic rocking routine. So just letting the pelvis tip away, so you might get a little hollow at the back and then just a little flattening towards the floor. So real kind of gentle, just pelvic tilt in action. Not overly gripping the buttocks, so you don't want any kind of gripping action. It's a gentle, just gentle flow. And that's starting to bring in some mobility there for the lower back. And then we only do it a few times and then we try and find somewhere in the middle. So ideally where the pubic bone and the hip bones here are level. Little tiny hollow, so a natural curve of the spine, not really hollows away from the floor. And we keep the rib cage engaged, so these muscles at the side of the tummy engaged, so that the ribs are not popping upwards. So feeling this upper part of the spine connect to the floor. From here, let's just do a couple of slides of the shoulders. So just sliding, lifting the shoulders to the ears, and then sliding them down. And again, lifting and sliding them down, just to bring some mobility into that shoulder girdle. And then when you're ready from here, lifting the arms up, and here we're going to take lift the fingertips upwards, so we lift the shoulders away from the floor, bring them back down, and then we squeeze the shoulders together, so pressing almost like you're squeezing the shoulder blades into the floor. So we're rounding the shoulders, lifting up, drawing them down so that they're square, and then squeezing them back. Do that one more time. So just pressing the arms up, keeping the elbows nice and soft, keeping the shoulders also too away from the ears, squeezing the shoulders back down, and then soften, and then just let the arms come down by the side of the body. So ideally you can feel the shoulder blades connecting to the floor. Okay, a little bit of kind of foot and mobility work for the lower body again. So breath in, and as we breathe out, just peeling the foot off. We'll come up a little bit higher if we can. So rather than just lifting onto the ball of the feet, we're coming up onto the toes. So we're starting to take it up a little bit. If it doesn't feel comfy, just do a small one. So it doesn't have to be a big movement at the ankle. But we are trying to get some mobility coming into that lower body. And again, zipping the tummy, watching these rib cage. So my little rib cage is a little bit of a mischief maker. If you can here, come up and bring the knee. So again, this shin is coming parallel to the ceiling. And ideally we land the toe and the whole foot in the same place. Again, you zip the tummy, taking that little lift. Watch here, sometimes the toes can cramp, so although you point the toe, try not to point it and keep the muscles tightly engaged. It's a light point in action. I won't get you to do the tabletop legs today, we're just bringing in some mobility at the hips. So if you remember in the last sequence we held both legs up, and that's because we were working this section, doing a little bit more work from here in this supine position. We won't do that today because we're going to go into some other exercises. So after this one, bring the leg down, and I'm going to get you to go into a rolling bridge. So we take the feet a little bit closer, tiny bit closer, not too much, to the buttocks. So there's not too much of a gap between your heels and the buttocks. And here, draw the abdominals in, and I'm just lifting my arm out of the way so you can see what goes on at the pelvis. And in natural fact, your hands are going to be down here. You take this breath in, and as you breathe out, zip your tummy, let the lower back actually press down to the floor, and then using this with sequential control, it's engaged the buttocks, and then you lift through the spine, let the spine roll, all the way up, so that you're in a bridge position. Now at the top of the bridge, you should be able to kind of just lift the head. So if you can't move your head, you're probably up a little bit too high. So that's a little check-up. You take a hold, breath in, and as you breathe down, you're going to move down with that sequential control. So each vertebral bone, imagine it coming down just gently right to the tummy button, and then you roll out through the pelvis and start with that pelvis back in neutral. Let's do a couple more of those. So breath in, keeping the rib cage connected. As you take a breath out, you roll the pelvis, light engagement of the tummy, press through your feet, and you roll the spine up. And it's as if you roll one vertebral bone at a time off the floor. We're trying to keep this pelvis level. We take a breath in at the top, and then as you breathe down, breathe out, roll down, and it's one vertebral bone at a time. So that's the kind of rolling bridge action, back into that neutral pelvis. Let's do one more of those. So zip in the tummy, roll in, tilt the pelvis, engage the buttocks, press through your feet, and each vertebral bone just lifts away from the floor. So imagine just like a little kind of string of pearls. Each vertebral bone lifts one at a time. Breath in at the top, and as you breathe out, just taking each one down, one at a time, 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 and back to neutral. And have a little rest. We're going to do some exercises just for the side of the hip, so what they call the side leg series. So I'm going to roll onto one side, and here, again, it's useful, we have to line the body up in a real straight line. So sometimes this front of the mat can kind of be that guide. Your hand position, if you can, here, if that's not available, just put your hand here. But you will then need something to rest underneath your head. And it might be that even with your hand in this position, you need something just between your ear and your shoulder there. Your hand can press down if that feels more comfy, and this hand rests in front. Now to support stability, I'm going to get you to bring this bottom knee in front so that the knee is in line with the hip. And from here, this is all straight, and you keep the pelvis level, so your hips, one hip is stacked on top of the other, this hand lightly in front, body nice and straight, and from there just zip the tummy. All you're going to do is point the toe and press away, and you lift as far as you can but without leaning forward or back, and then flex the foot to come down. And there's no movement of this spine, so no pressing the spine right down into the floor. So when you're ready, point the toe and then flex the feet. We're going to aim for 8. If you can only manage 4, that's fine. You could progress to 6. I'm a little bit lethal at counting, so please forgive me. I think that might be 3 or 4. So I'll tell you, you have to watch. So just keep an eye. But the key thing is it's just this hip joint that moves. And always work to a range that feels comfy for you. It's pointing the toe. You imagine that you're in between a wall, so a wall in front of the leg and behind the leg, so that you can't, your leg's not rotating forwards or back. And it's more extending the leg away rather than really lifting the leg high. A little bit more wobbly, so you're going to need to do more work here to stabilise. Option is always the hands down. Remember, you can aim for 4 reps, you can aim for 6 reps, you can aim for 8. I think this is getting close to 7. You will start to feel it around the side of the hip. It shouldn't feel too uncomfortable. And then you can have a rest. You can rest out totally there, or if you want to, you hold the leg up, you control and you use these abdominal muscles, and then it's a small circle backwards for 8. So 1, it's if your hip is like a wooden spoon, or your leg is like a spoon, if that makes sense. Kind of stirring action in that hip joint. So that's the kind of feeling. but we're aiming for 8. Could do 4, you could do 6. There's about 6, that's 7. If that's enough, you can rest there. If you can, go for another set forward. So we'll go to the forward circles. 2. You're still engaging these abdominals. We're keeping all of this still. We're keeping the breath going. That's probably about 5. I'm lethal counting, so I'm trusting you to count here. And I'm sure you are, if you're doing them and you're feeling these hip muscles working. Do 7, and then 8. So take a little rest there. And then bring the knees forward. That will just give a little kind of stretch out here, and you can then just let that waist and the spine rest to the floor. To come up, we're going to press and use the hands to come up over to the other side, and then your body is in a nice straight line, lengthened along the floor. Same thing, so you need cushions, and just place the hand in a position that's comfortable for you. It could be here, but you will need a pillow support. This lower leg comes forward, so the knees in line with your hips, little waist lift away from the floor, so not slumping and flexing the spine. So the hips are stacked. This hand here for support, body in that beautiful straight line, and again, 4, 6 or 8 repetitions. We start breath into prep, and then as we breathe out, point the toe to lift. Now, I'm kind of looking up at the camera, and that may tilt my head. When you do it, make sure you're looking forward, so the whole body is in alignment. So that's 2 repetitions. And I said you can aim for 4, you can aim for 6, or you can aim for 8. And you can also aim for 10 later on. But they're kind of options. I'm wobbling my foot around there. What you should be doing is point the toe to lift, and then flex the foot to lower. And by chattering away, I've now lost count, but hopefully you haven't. You will be feeling it, so you'll know when you've had enough, and that's the key. If it starts to feel kind of like burning or really uncomfortable, then you take a pause. That's building up kind of like toxins in the muscle, and you really want to rest at that point, especially if it feels more uncomfy. If it's bearable, so a little kind of ache, that's okay. So we aim for 8, I think that's about 7, and we keep these abdominals pulling in too. And we hold the leg up if you can. We circle backwards first for 8, so it's that 1 circle, 2. And you try and make it a nice kind of full, complete circle, under control. You draw the tummy in, and that's 7, let's say an 8. Can you go the other way for 8? Try. 1, 2. Remember, this hand can be on the floor just to support. Trying to go for those complete circles, nice and smooth, keeping the abdominals strong. 6 and 7. You are allowed to rest when you need to, and then that's 8. And you take the leg down, and then again look in front and rest it here, and you can then have a little sink of the spine, so you bring that spine into a little bend. And from there, push up and around in front, and then just give the legs a little shake out. And we're done with the 4th routine. So that one, there was some work for the abdominals and a little bit of prep, but mainly working on these outer thigh muscles. So hopefully that felt comfortable. Thank you.